Peru, mobilizations against Dina Boluarte's government continue amid the 202nd anniversary of the nation's independence. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces have killed 185 Palestinians so far in 2023. The UN Office for Humanitarian Affairs also registered over 6,000 injured. Various international organizations disowned the junta that seized power in Niger and demand the release of President Mohamed Bazoum. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Peru, citizens celebrated the 202nd anniversary of the declaration of its independence amidst protests against the government of Dina Boluarte. Social movements announced several mobilizations, road blockades, and other acts in rejection of appointed President Dina Boluarte in the framework of the celebration of the national holidays. Among the events is the so-called Rally of All the Bloods at the Plaza 2 de Mayo in Lima. Also, protesters from more than 10 districts of the Puno region announced that they will go on strike for 72 hours as a measure of rejection to the President and the Congress of the Republic. And in this context, the security forces carried out repressive actions against the social movements protesting to demand the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. The Peruvian police violently repressed demonstrators who were peacefully trying to reach the Peruvian Congress. Protesters denounced that national police fired rubber bullets at the demonstration, triggering a stampede. In Uruguay, workers of the Public Water and Sewage Company are on a 48-hour general strike. The workers are denouncing a government plan to close the state company. However, there is a small amount of personnel continue working to carry out pipes maintenance and repairs throughout the country in view of the current water crisis in the nation. Following the actions undertaken by the union, the Ministry of Labor has called for a meeting to mediate between water company workers and management. On Sunday, the Colombian Attorney General's office announced on a press release that they have arrested Nicolas Petro, son of the Colombian president, on charges of money laundering. The General Prosecutor's Office confirmed the execution of an arrest warrant against Nicolas Petro and his former wife, Taisuris Vasquez. The detainees have been accused of money laundering and illicit enrichment. Colombian President Gustavo Petro said he will not take any part in the investigation. In a tweet, Colombian President Gustavo Petro said, "My son Nicolas and his former wife have been captured by the prosecutor's office. As a person and as a father, it hurts me very much to see such self-destructive behavior that a son of mine may have to go to prison. But as President of the Republic, I told the prosecutor's office that they have all guarantees on my part to proceed according to the law. I wish my son luck and strength. May these events forge his character and may he reflect on his own mistakes. As I have already told the Attorney General, I will not intervene nor put any pressure on his decisions. May the law freely guide the process." In Ecuador, the army has raided again the El Litoral prison under the state of exception decreed by President Guillermo Lasso in an effort to curb increasing violence in the country. Over 1,000 troops took part in the raid. They seized 27 firearms, 17 hand grenades, 15 homemade explosives, 7,009 9mm caliber bullets, and 4,500 rounds of 5.56 caliber ammunition smuggled into prison. They also found bags with drugs, cell phones, tools, and bulletproof vests, among other things. Security analysts say the current confrontation between criminal gangs is over the control of routes for illegal drug trafficking. In Mexico, the National Migration Institute said Friday that they have located 154 migrants, mostly from Africa and Asia, in the city of Sonoita, in northern state of Sonora. The Migration Institute said in a statement that the migrants are citizens of Angola, Egypt, India, Mauritania, and Senegal, as well as from Ecuador, all trying to cross into the United States. The foreign migrants were sent to a multi-purpose center to provide them with medical attention and food, and to start the corresponding repatriation procedures. The institute said that in order to locate the immigrants, they conducted 2 operations in the city of Sonaita and that 46 of the immigrants had been illegally imprisoned. In Bolivia, health authorities registered an increase in whooping cough, a respiratory disease with high daily infections. This has led to the implementation of emergency measures in the department of Santa Cruz, where 8 people have died from this vaccine-preventable disease. Bolivian Health Minister Maria René reported 596 cases in that region. Whooping cough, or pertussis, is a respiratory disease that swells the trachea and bronchial tubes. It also causes violent coughing with a shocking sensation. The disease is preventable by means of the pentavalent vaccine that also covers diphtheria, tetanus, influenza B, and hepatitis, but parents do not immunize their children. So far, only 32% have been vaccinated. On Saturday, in the city of La Paz, the mayor de San Andrés University holds a celebration in homage to Bolivian culture and university autonomy after 28 years of continuous work. The University Folkloric Festival began at 7 a.m. local time on Montes Avenue, where at least 10,000 dancers from 65 fraternities performed with joy, culture, and effort. 10 hours are scheduled for typical dances such as Diablada, Tinku, Puzlay, Tarqueada, among others, from different regions of the country to be presented during the event. In addition, Oscar Heredia, Dean of the University, stated that at least 300 policemen are participating in the event to ensure security and peace. Members of the Culture Commission and the University Council are also participating. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The Russian government announced the temporary suspension of rice exports until the end of the year. An official statement reported that the decision was made to maintain stability on the domestic market. The ban does not apply to other members of the Eurasian Economic Union, meaning Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, nor South Ossetia and Abkhazia. Moreover, rice can still be shipped abroad for humanitarian aid or transited through Russian territory. Earlier this week, India, the world's biggest rice exporter, adopted a similar measure banning overseas sales of non-basmati white rice. New Delhi said the move would ensure adequate availability and control prices in the domestic market. The Russian government earmarked $2 million through the UN for the purchase of food for Mali. President Vladimir Putin announced the decision during a meeting with Malian authorities. The Russian president also pointed out that he considers Mali as one of the key partners in the region, where bilateral trade alliances and political dialogue remain close. The government of Mali emphasized at the meeting its gratitude for the efforts of the Russian president in favor of peace and stability in this African nation. On Friday and Saturday, thousands took to the streets to protest against the far-right Alternative for Germany as the party held a convention to choose its candidates for European parliamentary elections next year. Protesters outside the conference venue in the city of Magdeburg waved banners with messages like "Stand together against right-wing hate" or "Nazis out." The AfD last month won a vote for a district leader for the first time and is on course to win 3 upcoming state elections in East Germany. Its rise has drawn concern from the domestic intelligence service about extremism. Vocals among the protesters in Magdeburg were grannies against the far right, calling for an end to racism and far-right politics. In the United Kingdom on Saturday, members of the union at the 14 rail companies went on strike as part of a long-running dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. A new day of strike forced the suspension of half the UK's train services, as more than 20,000 rail workers walked out. Members of the Rail, Maritime and Transport Union, employed by several train operating companies, staged a one-day walkout in response to controversial plans to close most ticket offices across the country. The strikes reflect a broader trend of industrial action in the public and private sectors as workers demand wage increases amid runaway inflation and a cost of living crisis. Saturday's action is the last strike on the calendar, and unions have to give at least a 14 days notice to hold any further strikes. However, next week, as left, the train drivers union plans on an overtime ban, which will also affect rail services. The Chinese government rejects the $345 million in defense aid to Taiwan from Washington and urged the U.S. to stop building up tensions. Chinese embassy spokesman Liu Pengyu said her country is firmly opposed to U.S. military ties and arms sales to Taiwan. The U.S. government should abide by the One China principle and the joint statements to stop selling arms to Taiwan and cease creating risk to peace and stability. The Biden administration insists on its commitment to the Taiwan agreements, but the aid came after the break in contact between the U.S. and the Asian country. According to the Military Watch portal, China has increased production of its fifth-generation J-20 fighters to about 120 units per year, more than double of previous estimates. The J-20, a fifth-generation stealth fighter, developed and produced by the Chengdu Aircraft Industry Corporation, factory for the Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force, is a heavy twin-engine aircraft designed primarily for long-range air-to-air combat, unlike the U.S. F-35, which is for air-to-ground operations. This increase in production puts the Chinese military in a league of its own, for in terms of modernizing its air force, to the point that this year it will surpass the U.S. as its closest rival in terms of supplying fifth-generation fighters. On Saturday, an explosion ripped through a firework warehouse in Thailand, killing 9 people and injuring more than 100. The blast occurred in the town of Sungai Kolok in the southern province of Narathiwat. The region's governor, Sanam Pongkaksorn, said the resulting fire was under control, adding that preliminary investigation suggests the cause is a technical error during the steel welding process, as the building is under construction. A local broadcaster reported that as many as 500 houses were damaged by the explosion in the border town on the frontier with Malaysia. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. For a short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reported that the Israeli regime's security forces killed 185 Palestinians so far in 2023. The office detailed that 154 Palestinians lost their lives in the West Bank and the rest in the Gaza Strip, while another 6,000 were injured. In the same period, Israeli occupation troops forced Palestinians to demolish 542 structures in the West Bank, 141 of them in the occupied Jerusalem area. As a result, 940 citizens were displaced from their lands. Additionally, 2,000 Palestinians were arrested in the West Bank and Jerusalem, and 28 military raids in the Gaza Strip were recorded. In India, a massive protest rally was held in the state of Manipur over escalating ethnic violence. Thousands rallied against Chin-Kuki narco-terrorism in Imphal, demanding a resolution to the crisis in Manipur. At least 120 people have been killed since May in armed clashes between the predominantly Hindu-majority Meitei and Christian-majority Kuki in the northeastern state. Many in Manipur believe the toll could be higher. Several international organizations condemned the coup d'etat in Niger and disowned the new government. The UN Security Council issued a statement condemning the change of government and expressed concern about the impact of these unconstitutional actions in the region. The European Union declared this Saturday that it will not recognize the coup plotters in Niger and suspended security cooperation with the nation. Both entities request the release of President Mohamed Bazoum, who is being held in his residence after the country's defense and security forces announced his dismissal, the closing of the borders and the imposition of a curfew. The African Union and the governments of China and the United States have also stated their support for the return to constitutional order. On Saturday, Senegal's public prosecutor announced 7 new charges against opposition politician Ousmane Sonko, adding that they were unrelated to a moral corruption case last month that sparked deadly protests.
We have therefore decided to initiate a public prosecution, which is why he is now in police custody and will be brought before us shortly, and his case is practically complete. He will be prosecuted for calling for insurrection, criminal conspiracy, undermining state security, plotting against state authority, acts and maneuvers to compromise public security, to create serious political unrest, criminal conspiracy in connection with a terrorist enterprise, but also theft.
In Nigeria, for the past few days, wildfires have ravaged the northeast mountain forest of the Capgelia region on the Mediterranean coast. On Saturday, the nation mourned 16 victims of these wildfires, all from a small village located 150 miles away from the capital, Algiers. Those 16 people killed as they tried to flee the flames made up 10% of the village population. At the funeral, one of the relatives of the victims said that on top of the great human loss, they had suffered 99% of their farmland, and their farmland had been scorched, land that the remaining survivors were still standing on their feet only by the grace of God. In the areas affected by the wildfires, water and electricity remain cut off, but aid supplies are arriving. And we're going to continue in China, because on Saturday, China declared a red alert for parts of the northern regions, including Beijing, due to the expected torrential rains caused by the advance of Typhoon Doksuri, which is currently battering the other end of the country. According to the Chinese Weather Service, Doksuri is moving northward, with its influence already being felt. Local media report that this is the first time since 2011 that such alert for torrential rains has been issued. Weather services projected that more than 60 centimeters of precipitation may fall. Doksuri caused major property damage in the southeast of the country on Friday, with wind speeds of up to 175 km per hour. Its intensity has since decreased. China faces extreme weather conditions and record temperatures in recent months, exacerbated by climate change. Like this, we have come to the end of this news briefing, and you can find these and many other stories on our website, TeleSUREnglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.
We are here.